graph inequalities. And before I go into this video, I quickly want to take a step back. And I know I didn't do a video on graphing linear equations because I assume you guys would understand that topic very well, then understand this one. So in case you guys don't, always feel free to reach out to me, and I will make sure to upload a video based on graphing linear equations and absolute value equations because of the unit 2. Alright, anyways, let's go back to this video. And this one we're going to be talking about graphing inequalities. So as you can see, I have 4 different number line graphs, and I know they're pretty messy, but we're going to live with it. So whenever you graph inequalities, you're going to have number lines, right? That's always the case. Whenever you encounter an inequality, at least a linear inequality. Let me take a step back. A linear inequality, right? You're going to put them in a number line. You can put them in a number line. And when putting them in a number line, you always want to make sure that there is either an open circle or a closed circle in each of the graphs. So for the first question, you can see that it's an open circle. Second one is a closed circle, just like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to explore how to figure out the inequalities based off of the graph. So whenever doing something like this, always make you remember one thing, alright? If you guys want me to make a flashcard about this. Whenever you have an open circle, right? An open circle. Open circle. This is the same thing as less than or greater than. When you have a closed circle, you have a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Notice the difference. When it's open, there is no equal to part on the bottom, but when it's closed, there is. So if you guys want, I'll give you a quick second to write this one down, and then I'm going to erase it. Alright, so let's go back to this first question. So make note of that, alright? That'll help very much. Alright. From here, you can see it's an open circle, so we know it's less than or greater than. And the next tip, right? This is something else you can make a flashcard note of. You see this end part right over here? That arrow? It looks, alright, so to enlarge it, that's what a graph is right here, right? You see this part right here? That looks like a greater than symbol, right? And so that's an easy way to figure it out. Now we know it's greater than. It works for any type of case, alright? Remember that, it's an easy way to figure out what your graph is. So if you guys want, you can make a flashcard of that. Whichever way the arrow is pointing, you can easily figure out what it looks like. So this looks kind of like this, right? If you take out the arrow, or the line portion of it. Alright, so let's go back and figure out the full equation, or should I say inequality. Alright, so we have greater than, right? And always whenever you're graphing, or whenever you're finding your inequality, your variable, no matter what it is, always goes on the left side. So for this case, we're going to make it x. And I know it doesn't look like a normal x, but I'm trying my best. So it's x is greater than, and now what value is x greater than, right? X is greater than whichever number this circle is hovering over. So in this case, it would be 0. So x is greater than 0. That'll be our answer for this one. Alright, for the next question. We can see we have a closed circle, right? So what would we do in this case? Well, since it's a closed circle, we know it's either going to be a less than or equal to or greater than equal to. And based off of this part of our graph, we know it's going to be a greater than or equal to, because it's pointing that way. From here, we know that the set is going to be x, as usual, or any variable, whichever one you decide to use. And then this part over here, on the right side, would be whichever number or circle, no matter open or closed, is hovering over. And in this case, it's -2. And that would be our answer. So it's, yeah, guys, it's pretty simple. And later we'll be going over a little bit more tougher questions. But as of now, it's pretty simple. Just make sure to take note of the key factors. Just put this back. Alright, so now let's look at the next question. We have an open circle, and then it's pointing to the left direction, so we know it's going to be less than. And it's an x over here, and so it's less than what value? -3, because that's what it's hovering over. And And then our last question, we have it's hovering over 3, so we know it's 3, and then it's an open circle, and it's pointing to the left, so again, that would be our answer. Alright, so that was basically the first portion, how to basically figure out the graph. How to basically figure out the inequality from the graph. And now let's figure out how to take the graph from the inequality. So give me a second to erase all of this stuff real quick. And so whenever you're trying to figure out the graph from an inequality, it's basically the same steps, right? You're just using the same thing that we did, except you're doing the reverse. So it shouldn't be anything too new. So let me just get rid of this real quick. This graph. Alright. So let's see, what do we want our values to be, or our equations to be? Let's start off simple, right? Let's do x is less than or equal to 1. Alright? When we're doing x is less than or equal to 1, we know that it's going to the left because that's what our thing is pointing to. It's a less than. So, and it's hovering over 1, and it's greater than or equal to. So you know immediately that it's going to be shaded in. And it's hovering over 1 because that's what our value is, and it's going to the left because that's what it says. Alright, next let's do another equation. Let's do x is greater than -3. So from here, we know it's going to be an open circle over -3, and it's going to this direction because it's greater than. So yeah, guys, it's pretty simple. Now let's look into a little bit more tough one, alright? I'm gonna put in an inequality. We're gonna have to solve it and then graph our answer. So we would have, let's say we have 2x minus 1 is greater than 3x minus 4. Alright, so from here, let's move our constants to one side and let's move our variables to the other, just like how we solve a normal equation. And if you want reference, you guys can go back to the last video, the one I just did before this one. So anyways, let's go back. So we have negative, here, let me move this down a bit. Let's go over here. So we would have x minus 4 is less than -1. All we did was you just subtracted 2x on both sides, if you guys couldn't tell. And then from here, you add 4 to both sides, so you're trying to isolate the variable no matter what. So you'd have x is less than 3. And remember, guys, in this case, we didn't have a negative in our variable. So remember, whenever you're dividing or multiplying with a negative in your variable or in constant, always make sure to flip your sign. And I go into much more detail in the last video, so if you guys need a brush up or a refresher, always make sure to take a look to the last video. So anyways, this is our solution. So let's graph the solution. We have a 3, so it's an open circle because it's not equal to, it's just a less than. So it's open circle and it's going to the left because that's where inequality points to. So let me erase all this mumbo jumbo all the way just to clear up the space a bit. Alright, so now that we've solved one with both sides having a variable, let's do a little bit more complex one. So let's say we have, 1/2 x plus 2 is less than or equal to, let's say, 3/2 x minus 1. Alright, so I'm going to bring this equation over here. Actually, let's move it over here since we have space. So as usual, we're going to subtract 1/2 x from both sides in order to help isolate the variable and the constant. So we have 3/2 x minus 1/2 x is 2/2x, which is the same thing as x. So x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 2. From here, just add by 1 on both sides. So you'll have x is greater than or equal to 3. So this will be our final solution. And then let's quickly graph this. So we have 3 over here, and it's shaded in as usual. It's shaded in, and then we go that way. So yeah, let me just quickly erase this. So basically, guys, that concludes this lesson, or should I say this unit. That concludes Unit 3, which was inequalities as a whole. This lesson was on graphing inequalities. So a quick summary was, here, let me just get rid of all of this stuff. So a quick summary, always make sure whenever you're trying to graph an inequality or find the graph of inequality, or even find the inequality from a graph, always look for if it's an open or closed circle. And if it's an open circle, you know it's either less than or greater than. If it's a closed circle, you know it's with equal to sign on the bottom. And then whichever side or whichever direction the arrow is pointing to, that's like that's which way, or that's the, let's say, inequality that it's going to be. So like for one more quick example, so the first one, this one right over here, that's the same thing. Our solution that we got was this, right? Shaded in like this. And so this part right here, that's the same thing as this, right? So we know that's a less than. So whenever you're writing your inequality, it's going to be a less than. It's just easy tricks to help find the answer quickly. If you guys want, like I said earlier, make a flashcard if it helps you remember. I know for me, making a flashcard helps me remember things. But yeah, and so yeah, that's basically it, guys. It's very simple. Just make sure you practice. And I'll see you guys in Unit 4, I think. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.